So today we are talking Battlefield 4. Now recently we have seen some pretty big changes and some new features brought in to the CTE version of the game. Now recently I have had a lot of questions asking to know more about CTE. Of course it is only available for PC users, so if you are on a console, I can understand how it may be a little confusing. Now CTE, or the Community Test Environment, is a separate version of Battlefield 4, as I said, only available for PC. So if you are using the CTE, you actually have to have a second version of Battlefield 4 installed on your PC. Now this version allows DICE to bring in changes and patches and new versions of the game without bringing them into the full game yet, in case they don't work. Of course, we all know we've seen a lot of new patches brought in with DLCs that have just broken the game even more. So rather than that happening to the real version of Battlefield 4, the CTE is a test version that allows us to see some changes and tweaks made before we see them implemented into the full game. Now, as well as recently adding all of the upcoming Dragon's Teeth weapons, of course, as you can see here, I am using the brand new Bulldog Bullpup Assault Rifle that will be available with Dragon's Teeth in the coming weeks. They've now also added some brand new features to test out in the CTE, so these features I'm going to discuss we may not see actually brought into the full version of the game, but so far they are pretty successful, so I would say it's going to be highly likely you will see these implemented into the full version of Battlefield 4 in the very near future. Now the first and most exciting of which you can see me implementing here is the brand new triage system. Now this is something we've wanted to see in Battlefield for a very long time, way before the release of Battlefield 4. It was originally suggested by a fan in the lifetime of Battlefield 3. Now it has been toyed with, that idea has been played around with since then, but finally we are now seeing it implemented into the CTE. Now so far it has proved very successful, and that is pretty unsurprising. It is a very simple idea, and usually the most simple ideas are the most effective. Now this idea just allows you to see a timer on any teammate who has died and has a chance to be revived. So now you can calculate, do you have time to revive that teammate? Do you have time to kill some more enemies, clear your route before you move to them? And now especially with Battlefield 4, a feature we didn't see in Battlefield 3, you can now calculate, do you have time to make a quick revive and throw down a health pack, or do you have time to rub your defibrillators together and get a 100% revive? Something we didn't see in Battlefield 3. So actually, this system is actually way more effective in Battlefield 4 than it ever would have been in Battlefield 3. Now this system of course will also help if you have multiple teammates you need to revive. It will allow you to quickly assess which teammates you need to revive first and how you need to go about doing it. But the only issue for me personally is this is just extra information on the screen. We already know that Battlefield 4, the entire HUD, is very, very cluttered. If you're trying to fire at somebody a long distance away, sometimes you can't even see them for the amount of clutter on screen from teammates' names, from different MCOMs, different objectives. So having this extra information on screen, whilst it is very useful, it does need to be subtle, because at the moment I do think it does make the logo a little bit bigger. It probably could be a little bit more transparent, because at the moment it does just add a little bit too much clutter to the screen. So a little bit more transparency, make it a little bit more subtle, and it hopefully will be a great new addition to the game. Now moving on to another brand new feature we have seen implemented with the CTE that you may have noticed in this gameplay already if you do have a keen eye, and that is a reduction in scope sway. Now originally with Battlefield 4 we saw a massively exaggerated recoil when aiming down sight, which made aiming consistently sometimes a little bit difficult. So to remedy this, rather than going back and redesigning all of the recoil for all of the weapons, DICE have now made it so the reticle on the red dot sight will now stay in the center of the screen. So rather than moving around as the weapon jolts and recoils, which could make aiming very difficult, you will now notice it actually moves around inside the red dot itself, inside the scope, which makes aiming a lot more consistent and will definitely improve your accuracy. Now, as well as these new features, we are also seeing some massive changes brought into Rush, and let's be honest, it does really need it. Rush was a massively popular game mode in previous titles, probably one of my favourite game modes in Bad Company, but it just doesn't seem to work with Battlefield 4. So we are seeing some big changes brought in. We're seeing the ticket count change from 75 to 100 on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and on PC, of course, if you can find a standard server. We're also seeing the game time reduced from 60 minutes per base down to 15 minutes, so if there is a stalemate, hopefully the game won't drag on for as long. We're also seeing the movement of some MCOMs on specific maps. Now hopefully this will mean we will no longer see the attacking team reaching the MCOMs before the defending team, which, let's be honest, really doesn't make that much sense. Hopefully it will mean we'll no longer see bottlenecks, and it will just smooth out the gameplay experience and just make Rush move a lot quicker. Now some of the maps we have seen these changes implemented on already include Siege of Shanghai, which has made Rush a lot more successful on that map. We've also seen huge changes to Rogue Transmission, including the amount of vehicles the attacking and defending team now have access to, including aircraft, which, as I said, is just making the entire experience a lot smoother. Now apparently in the near future, hopefully we will see some changes to Zavod 311 Rush, and now some changes to the China Rising maps. They now have been brought into CTE, so hopefully they should be improved in the near future. So it finally looks like we could be getting the version of Battlefield 4 we wanted to get back in November 2013, so it's definitely better late than never. But down in the comments below, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on these new changes? And more importantly, I want to know what other new features and changes would you like to see implemented into the game? Tell me all down in the comments below. And of course, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to hit like. It really does help me out a lot and I massively appreciate it. But in the meantime guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.